that we did with Shweta in our Facebook webinar playlist. So we are here today to celebrate women-led businesses. March has been not just International Women's Day, but International Women's Month. So what a better way to celebrate that than to get get a successful woman entrepreneur like Shweta Jain to talk to women entrepreneurs on how they can save and earn money while setting up and growing their business from home. So that's what we will be discussing today, along with money management and fundraising tips. So do stay tuned and ask your questions. It's going to be a fun and great session. So thank you, Shweta, for joining us for the second time to do a webinar with us. I think our audience would be very keen to know. I'm sure those who are here for the first time again, who have not seen the previous webinar, they would love to hear a lot more about you and what you do, and tell us a little more about Investography as well.
Sure. Thanks, Shweta. Thanks for having me again. And it's nice to see you after such a long time.
Yeah.
And it's nice to talk to everybody out here. I'm hoping a lot more people will be asking questions today, and I will be happy to answer. So Investography, I started about 3 years ago along with a co-founder of mine, Nitin Shashikumar. And we started with this vision of making sure that people could tell their money what to do, because otherwise it's usually the other way around, that whether it's lack of money or abundance of money, it ends up controlling you. We want people to control their money, people to control their habits, and in a fun way rather than a preachy, a sort of boring way. So we wanted to make money conversations fun, and that's what we've been doing at Investography for the last 3 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny how the last year has just flown by. I think we'll talk a little more about last year.
Okay.
But yeah, so we just make money conversations more fun, more relevant, I would say. So when we talk to individuals, we don't talk about subjects or theories and, say, mere zamane mein, for example, but relevant problems that each one of us face today.
Yeah.
We talk about that particular aspect of money to the relevant sort of audience. Like today, we're talking about women-led businesses, right? So we'll be talking about everything women face challenges, everything, not just money, because we do believe that financial independence could be at the root of actual independence. Without financial independence, there is no independence.
Yes.
And even at the heart of mental wellness, if you're financially sort of stable and well settled and not worried about, a lot of the mental well-being is taken care of as well. So Investography was started with that vision, and we help over 100 companies, employees. We do financial wellness programs for them. We have advisors who talk to them one-on-one, now online and on the phone, where they give them unbiased advice. So I would recommend that each company does this for their employees, no matter how big or small, because that's something that they should absolutely do. It increases employee productivity. So therefore, companies, that's if they're worried about that, I think if they're worried about the cost, I think the benefits far outweigh the costs. I've also written a book called My Conversations with Money, and that's something that I love doing. I love writing. In fact, you'll see my articles at various places. I love talking about money. So I'm otherwise an introvert, but when it comes to money and Investography, you cannot shut me up. You'll see that even throughout this conversation, right?
I'm looking forward to that. Yes. All right. So that's great. And I'm so intrigued to know more about your book, right? It is My Conversation with Money, if I'm not wrong. Is that the title?
Yes.
And in that, I'm sure you have definitely addressed, I mean, not, of course, what happened in 2020, but maybe how to stay best prepared for like a crisis or a problem when it comes to your money. I think it's not something we were always taught in schools, how to manage our finances. Let's be very frank about that. We've learned algebra and trigonometry, but not about how to do your taxes, we weren't taught. And how to manage our money when we grow up, we weren't taught. And I can speak for every millennial out there that everyone has a tough time managing their money, right? And now when it comes to women who are at home, right, who want to start a business, I know one challenge is they are scared to invest their own money. They do not want to, or they are scared, or they are not that financially sound, or they might have been homemakers their whole life, so they didn't have a steady flow of external income coming in to put savings. So in this webinar today, I want to address some of those things, to an expert like you and an entrepreneur as well. What do you think is exactly stopping women or kind of restricting women from setting up a business at the moment?
Okay, so I'm going to start off with how you started off, right? So I'm going to start off with
Mhm.
the book and how money
Yeah.
should be taught to us in schools. Absolutely,
Yes.
something that we should be taught in schools. However, we are addressing that in our own little way. We have a portal where we are signing up educational institutes. Right from schools, right from fifth grade onwards, they
Hmm.
can sign up with us, and there are videos, there are activities for children as young as 9 and 10, all the way to college, all the way then to employees.
Hmm.
We don't haven't yet opened this for individuals yet, but that is the sort of vision that even as an individual you'll be able to come and access some of these content. But right now, I think the easier way for us as a business is just to approach like a B2B kind of a business rather than a B2C directly, because that it has its own sort of costs, challenges. Uh,
Yes.
so that is what we're trying to do. Teach
Mhm.
money right from your childhood. In fact, in India, it's funny how money is a taboo subject in so many families. We don't talk about it. Being a Marwadi, I was fortunate enough that we were talking about money, whether there was lack of it, whether there was more of it, whether there's investments. It would be like a dinner table conversation and not something, there isn't a big deal made out of it.
Mhm.
If we could only afford two pairs of something, we were told as kids, we were three kids, my siblings and I, and we were told, okay, we have money for two. You guys decide which two sizes we should get. So
Okay.
it wasn't a life of abundance at that time, right? So
Mhm.
today, fortunately, there is abundance. So we can think of investing as well. Earlier, if you see our parents, how budgeting would play a huge role, and they would want to save even every little bit of money for a rainy day. Today, we've somehow forgotten that because they wanted us to live a life of abundance. So they sort of pushed themselves so that we could lead better lives. But
Yeah,
they didn't teach their money lessons to us. And so,
that's
which
true.
is why we as millennials then lack that skill. I would call
Yeah.
money management a skill, definitely.
Mhm.
Um, and because we've seen shortages, then everything that we want to do for our kids becomes
Mhm.
excess. Saying, I wasn't given this as a child, so I want to make sure my child has everything.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford Lego, so I should get 10 Lego sets for my child, whether he likes it or no. I want to get this. So it becomes counterproductive to that extent, because we are not teaching our kids money management as well then. So we are then not raising financially savvy children. Uh,
Yes.
so that's another whole generation which could be worse off than we are actually.
Yeah.
Um, then, so that was our portal that we're building on for education, right? And we're talking about women and what stops women.
Yes.
I think there's one thing that definitely stops women, and that is cleaning. I
Okay.
mean, yes, it's as basic as that. And
Mhm.
I'll tell you why I'm talking about it in this way, because this is a non-stop job, right? Cleaning is a non-stop job. I mean, it's mentally sometimes for us we sort of daydream and get into this automatic mode, auto mode, and we keep cleaning, and it's a never-ending job. So it doesn't get over. So it's a constant thing. So we never get to challenge ourselves. It's comfortable for us because we're in a known space, a safe space. So we just keep doing what we're doing, and we sort of then can. I don't want to say act victim, but that's
Mhm.
sometimes what we do. We don't want to say, for example, we don't want to hire an extra help. We don't want to let go of that control nature, saying, I'm a perfectionist, I need everything absolutely clean. Trust me, there are some glass windows right here that I can see handprints on right now, and I have let go of that control because I want to be sitting here and talking to you, right? Because if I'm going to just keep cleaning the house, trust me, there's enough and more work that 24 hours non-stop, without sleeping, without eating, we can just keep cleaning.
Okay. Wow, that's actually a unique answer. I never thought that would be the reason. My brain is thinking all the vague things of society stopping you, family coming in the way. But this could actually be the real reason. I mean, we are always trying to keep the engines running in the house. So I don't know if that's one of the reasons that women have still not set up their business. But do you also think it could be money crunch? It could be that they are worried to invest their own money, their own hard-earned money into setting up a business?
So everything else is secondary, then there is obviously there's not much family support. So
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want you to take on a challenge when you're unhappy, the entire household gets sort of unsteady, or when you are extending yourself, challenging yourself, everything gets uncomfortable for them as well, right? And we live in a patriarchal society, so your husband, spouse, I mean brother, father, whoever might have to contribute a little bit more, might have to maybe stay back home for extra half an hour to watch the kids, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to do that, right? They don't want to sacrifice on that, or that half an hour extra with their boys at the panwala or whatever it is, or the chai
Yeah.
wala.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to do that.
Right, right, of course. So,
So that becomes an extra sort of barrier, right? And
mhm,
of course, see, money at the end of the day, I wouldn't deny that financial support isn't as easy for us to sort of risk here, right? Money is limited when you're not earning it on a regular basis. You're as it is if you're a homemaker, especially
mhm,
you're not in a space where you are there is regular inflow of money that's happening. So for you to risk everything, right, it becomes sort of like a gamble in our head, saying, and everybody else around us is also telling us that you're this is a gamble, because till your hobby it was great, but now that it is
business, yeah.
yeah, it's a business, you'll have to work harder, you'll have to why do you want, and also this fact of why do you want to do this, am I not doing this enough, don't we have enough, because a lot of times for women, and I've seen this, it's not about earning that money only, it is about proving themselves, having that self-respect to an extra level, taking that on, to setting examples for their own kids, you
Yeah.
know saying, if I can do this, my daughter can do this too. Otherwise, how can I expect my daughter to
Mhm,
challenge herself? A lot of parents that I talk to, a lot of women that I talk to,
mhm,
new mothers, like, okay, I want to do this because I want my daughter to look up to me, or I want my son to look up to me. So it's why they don't take on that challenge. Like I said, it's there's so many barriers before you even start, right? Financial is one, family support is one,
mhm.
like I said, our own barriers in our own head. Once you
Yeah.
remove barriers in our head and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to, I know women who've risked sort of their gold jewelry, they've sold their
Yeah.
jewelry and started businesses.
Wow.
And some have failed, some have done extremely well, but that has not stopped them,
Mhm.
right? I know women who take on loans and start working, but a lot of times these are businesses set up because they are challenged or they're pushed to a corner, not when you're really in a comfortable space,
Yeah.
uh, because otherwise, when you're in that space, everything is so nice and so comfortable. Why, why challenge the status quo if,
Mhm.
and things go wrong and you'll be blamed, right? And we are raised to be perfect. There's this video, a fantastic video. I forget the name of the lady. You maybe our audience can Google it as well. Brave versus perfect. We are raised as women, as girls, to be perfect, not brave. Our boys are called brave, okay, you're brave, you have to challenge yourself, you have to do this, you have to do that. Girls, you have to be comfortable, you're safe, you're not going to take on chances. So
Mhm.
which is then again one more barrier that has we've been brought up with, saying, if we risk and we fail, what is everybody going to say?
Yeah.
Women do care about that a lot, and we do care about that, saying, what is everybody else going to say? My god, what will my parents think, what will my husband say, what will my in-laws say? There's this whole list. So I think there's just more than one barrier of we have to cross.
Mhm.
But for women who take that first step, the journey could be very gratifying, profitable or not, the journey can be very gratifying.
Absolutely. It's like a bug. So many entrepreneurs also say it. It's like you become a seed. That's, I think, where the term serial entrepreneur comes in, right? Like, I have seldom heard, I've not that I'm sure it's still there, but I've seldom heard of women who have started a business and then just given up altogether. They, if one business fails, they move on to the next. So I totally agree with you about, especially when you said that, women are raised to be perfect and not brave. I think that's very true for our women, especially because they do want, they are raised to think that they have those 10 hands and can just multitask, but that's not always the case, right? Sometimes women need to just focus on one thing, and sometimes it's their business, right?
Yeah.
So uh, today I think we can talk about that one big barrier, which is of course money, right? When it comes to finance for women entrepreneurs, of course it's a whole different conversation to talk about the society, dilemma and family constraints. But when I think about finance also, and I had done a little research as well about why women-led businesses are so less, because it seems only 11% of MSMEs and small businesses in India are owned by women, are women led, in fact.
Yeah.
And you, living in a tier one town, you think that number can't make sense because there are so many women CEOs and women, founders of businesses. So this very small percentage, and I found out that one of the most prominent reasons for the small percentage is actually that finance, that lack of finance, lack of funds, right? So let's start with uh, let's picture a woman who has not had a job for many years, or who is a homemaker and who has suddenly decided, because we have so many of those kind of women who use Instamojo's online store feature, or who use Instamojo's payment links, and we know these women, and they would have been a homemaker for almost their entire lives, and then they've set up a business,
Yeah.
right? So how can these women make money before they set up a business? Of course, that's one thing, because I think this is there, right? Our mothers had that habit of saving money in boxes,
Yeah.
literally like notes and cash, and of course all those things.
Yeah.
And but what else can homemakers do to start earning a little bit money? Would you recommend that they go for a job before they set up a business so that they can make some money, or do you think they should take the plunge anyway? And if so, how should they go about securing funds for their business?
So that's a great question, I think. But when you're talking about a job, it becomes very different because when they have families and children to take care of,
Mhm.
not all jobs will allow you that flexibility. Trust me, women are much more hardworking than people give them credit for. I have seen women told through the nights, not sleep nights, and make sure that their work is done, their deliverables are done, but that doesn't get noticed. We only need that flexibility because we have to make sure that both roles are played well, right? The caretaker at home and our own businesses. So, which is why women like to start up on their own because they have that flexibility then. And I know last year has been difficult for a lot of people, but I have seen so many women entrepreneurs move online so quickly
Yeah.
and adapt so quickly, be it classes, be it teachers, the number of classes online, and they've gone and marketed themselves online and got students across the world, which wouldn't have been possible otherwise. I know this girl who's pregnant now, about 6 months,
Hmm.
and she used to give tuitions earlier
Hmm.
around her house, right? So now she's giving tuitions online, and not just to the students that she knew earlier. She's gone ahead one step further, and she actually trains students in the US. And keeping in mind she's pregnant, she wakes up, I think, at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. and gives classes at that time. She takes naps in the afternoon. I mean, imagine the kind of
Yeah,
entrepreneurial spirit that is keeping her
absolutely.
going. And she's just like, I want, this is my time to expand because there's no way that I could have catered to these students otherwise. But today, being at home, like I'm at my place right now, right, and working out of home for the last 1 year. And before, when I started the business, we had three offices.
Hmm.
Uh, Bombay, Bangalore, and Ahmedabad. And imagine the kind of rents we were paying, right? And now the whole team is working out of their own houses. We don't have two offices anymore because we just don't need those offices, right? And that is acceptable. Before, to show that I'm a serious businesswoman, I had to make sure that we had a physical presence. They wouldn't accept that I'm a mother working from home and I have employees who work from their homes. Like, maybe she's not serious, she's not committed enough to it. It didn't matter that I was putting in 20 hours of work. That didn't matter to anybody. I needed that address. Today that address is no more needed,
Yeah.
right? It's become an acceptable way of business. So while the pandemic has its own sort of negative things that have come into play, lots and lots, but this positive silver lining, I think, of being acceptable of working from home has
Yeah.
been a boon to women everywhere. I know it's been difficult managing children, husbands, homes without help. But I know so many women who've managed all that and not let their business get affected one bit.
Hmm.
So for women who are looking to start, I wouldn't really recommend that they go for jobs first and then start on their own. Like I said, it may not be that flexible. However, if they do find flexible jobs and in the area of business that they want to start on later,
Hmm.
absolutely go for it. You'll save up some money and then you can invest that money. But otherwise, there are loans available. There's funding available for women-led businesses, right from the government to VCs, where you have good ideas. There are opportunities for you to present. There are startup conferences that are happening. The startup courses that are happening. I'm attending one right now. Like
Okay.
I was telling you earlier as well,
Yeah.
this is a course by IIMB,
Mhm.
Goldman Sachs, 10,000 women. You have to apply for this course. So I would encourage women entrepreneurs here on your platform as well. Apply for courses like this because you get the necessary skills for the business. You get networking and you get opportunities to meet investors, to meet VCs,
Mhm.
which otherwise, being at home today, you may not be able to go out and sort of figure out and network, right? With
Right.
courses like this, and I don't have to pay anything. I just have to make sure that I get selected for this. So obviously, there's this whole screening process. The documents required, there are interviews done, but once you're through this, I mean, it's such a great place to be. I'm with 124 other women entrepreneurs on this group, and the amount of networking we've just done in the last 4 days is fantastic.
Mhm.
And women are so ready to give. You ask for one thing, and there are 10 women jumping, saying, "You know what, I can help you. You know what, I can help you. Let me do this for you." It's so great.
That's really good, and that I think shows when women support each other, it's I think much easier to break the barriers, that's holding them back from creating their own businesses. So I do agree with you there completely. Maybe it isn't the best idea to go for a job when you have so many other responsibilities. And I know I can speak for every woman who's thinking of setting up a business that there's some form of responsibility. If it's not a whole family, it's still you yourself, and taking care of yourself also is very important, right? Now, something you and I were discussing was financial stability, right? During the pandemic, the impact. Again, what I read on LiveMint, this I had read on LiveMint, that around 45% of women-led businesses that were kind of already running, they got shut down,
Yeah.
and to the point, a lot of them thought for good, right? So I did a little more research and found out that's because a lot of these businesses were offline. They had brick and mortar stores, or they were doing it, from they had warehouses or they had storage units, which had to be shut shop, and it was difficult. So of course, one solution was to have an online store, an online platform like Instamojo and other this thing. But what do you think has why do you think it was so heavy on women-led businesses that all of them had to shut down, and what can be done for them to bounce back now? What can they do?
I think it's also the kind of businesses, maybe, because if you see a lot of preschools which were run by women are shut. A lot of sort of daycare centers, whether it's for companies, or a lot of these businesses which were more sort of worked in a way where they were supporting other women who are going out to work, right? So I
Yeah.
think some of those businesses shut, and these are mostly women-led businesses, which couldn't be, say, done online. But a lot of women may have shut these businesses and started maybe new entities to make sure that they transition online.
Yes. Okay.
So like I said, I see a lot of women who may have shut one business. They got into say masks. They got into sanitizers, and there's so many women who, even on our group,
Yeah.
are telling, during the pandemic, all I sold was these equipments that help sanitize, that help make sure that their environment is sort of safe. I know somebody who said we now do sort of checks that the school is okay to
Mhm.
start running. So things like that. So they may have shut something, but something else would have opened online. I don't think they would have gone back, or maybe they've taken a break. Some of them have taken a break because maybe there was no help at home to take care of children,
Mhm.
and there's no
Yeah,
help
yeah, yeah.
help around the house as well. So everything and the cost of running the business physically, and then when there is no revenue, so right, at least for almost 1.5 months there was absolutely no revenue at all because everything was in lockdown, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it could have hampered a lot. So I think that one thing has also taught a lot of women or entrepreneurs the importance of having an emergency budget, not just for their personal lives but also for their businesses,
absolutely.
and realize how important cash flow is. A lot of times we are just running these businesses, we don't look at the numbers, we don't look at cash flow is positive, we don't look at whether revenues are getting if we are increasing revenues, we don't check if payments are coming on time, or we give them extra leeway, which sometimes people do take advantage of, because there's maybe a lot of times there's just single person show, right? So
Yeah,
you're also building a product, you're chasing somebody for payments, you're selling, you're marketing. So you might sort of drop the ball on, say, payments. So this pandemic has also taught women how important numbers are, and we cannot shy away from learning numbers. In
yeah,
fact, financial statements and our ability to go through them is so important.
of course. Absolutely. I agree. And this, in fact, reminds me of the previous question that we were discussing, right, about fundraising tips. Now, think of, I know so many women who they are throwing caution to the wind and they are setting up their businesses, right? But they do not want to put their, because a lot of them, my age group, they don't even have that many savings. So what can they do to raise funds? Who do they approach?
So I also want to add to that here that we're not necessarily running capital intensive businesses all the time. A
Mhm.
lot of times these may be labor intensive businesses where laborers, say, maybe us and maybe one or two more people. And because, like I said, things are more online now, maybe costs are also lesser. Having said that, you might still need to raise funds. So one is definitely through friends and family, your own funding. So you could be bootstrapped, you can put all that you have, or be smarter, set some money aside for your sort of personal goals, your personal emergency fund, and then put the rest in the business, because you have to show your commitment as well. There's friends and family that you can raise funds from. There are banks that you can take loans from if you don't want to dilute your capital. There's investors available, whether individual or VCs or angel funds funding. I mean, depending on the kind of or the sort of scale of the business that you're looking at, you could raise funds at different stages, and you don't have to do it on the first day of the business, right?
Right.
You could have a run up to funding, and when I say run up to funding, it also you have to set background for funding, right? So you have to build your brand, you have to build the business's brand. So it could take time, because I do know a lot of people who've sold themselves short because they did not know, say, for example, how to build their own brand,
Yeah.
right? And I know somebody who I think put it in the media a couple of days ago. I'm not sure which successful entrepreneur did this, saying, you know what, I did not know the importance of cash flow at that time, and I sold so much of my business just because my I had trouble having cash flow at that point of time. So I think a lot of times we don't build ourselves to that. We sell ourselves short because we don't tend to be we tend to be underconfident. We lack that confidence in ourselves and our own businesses, and we hate talking about ourselves, right? We think it's
Yeah.
bragging. We've been taught saying don't brag about yourself, but I think you have to have that run up where you're building your brand, and you get um, the right kind of valuation for your business as well. So
Right.
it's
Right.
it's fine if you're going to delay that funding a little bit, if you're okay with that cash flow, or raise right in the beginning, but make sure that you're selling it based on the vision that you have for the business. Don't sell yourself short. Don't say, today I have only one customer, so this is the valuation of my business. No, what is the vision of your business?
Right.
Sell the vision. Don't sell the current revenue or the current number of customers that you have. Sell the vision. I think that's what will get you the right kind of valuation for your business. At the end of the day, see, business is going to be risky, whether it's your money and somebody else's money, but you
Okay.
have to make sure that you're not dreaming small, you're dreaming big then, and you're then planning big as well. Of course, we'll put in that hard work. You will need to do that. You'll need to build a team. I don't think you should compromise on building a team either. So
Okay.
if it comes to a choice where you're looking at, say, two people who are fantastic, passionate, versus say 10 people who are going to be okay, and lesser qualified than the two, I think go with the two. They may be more expensive for your business. Don't be shy of diluting equity at that point with your co I would
Mhm.
say the starting team, right? So
Yeah.
you could start off with a bit of a stake in the business as well. And when they have stake, they'll be even more passionate about it. There are lots of otherwise investors that are available that you could look at. I could name some loans that people could look at. The government has interesting schemes, right, from 50,000 to 2 crore, 20 crores actually, right,
Right.
from Mudra Yojana to Dena Shakti to Bharatiya Mahila Bank to
Yeah.
Annapurna scheme. There's so many of these schemes available by the bank as well, but you need to definitely approach this, and you need to have your documents in order. A lot of times women don't tend to put their documents or their numbers in place, or the financial documents, right? So put your, whether it's your P&L account, whether it's your cash flow statement, whether it's your business estimates,
Yeah.
your balance sheets, have these in order. So very important.
Mhm.
And this, even the structure of your business, right, whether it's a sole proprietorship, whether it's an LLP, whether it's a private limited company, depending on your vision for the business, make sure that your structure of the company accommodates that, right? So if mine
Right.
is a sole proprietorship, how am I going to take on two senior employees and say I will give you a stake in my business? That's not going to be possible. So then
Right.
it better be like an LLP or a private limited company. So the structure of the business becomes quite important as well. If
Okay.
you're looking at, for example, if you're looking at VC funding, start following VCs like, say, a Sequoia, Axel Partners, your Kalari Capital, your Bloom Ventures, your
Yeah.
Matrix Partners. See there some of the successful deals. Start following pages like Your Story, where you're seeing stories of successful entrepreneurs, and start looking at some of these things, and not just from their sort of lens, right? Start looking at it from your business lens, and don't be afraid to fail. I think don't be afraid of rejection. Trust me, I've got rejected more number of times than I've been accepted. So if people, so if people are looking at the number of times, say, I'm appearing in the media, or if I have a successful sort of deal, trust me, there have been 99 deals that have fallen apart, and this one deal has gone through, which has been fantastic for me, and has been motivating me enough
Mhm.
to make sure that you keep trying and trying and trying. The amount of failures that we face as entrepreneurs, I think, just to jump back is a big thing, and I think each
Yeah.
one of us needs to have that.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Everything you said makes perfect sense, especially the part about, I think, keeping things together before you go to like a VC or any kind of body, even if it's a government body for funding, right? Because I think right from credit score to cash flow, I don't think so. What I'm getting from what you've said is from level zero, don't go for funding. Try to keep some of your money in the business. Don't immediately go for funding. Try to keep some of it on your own and source a lot of documents that will be taken, taken up when you're approaching investors, right? That's the ideal way to approach it, because I think that's also something. I mean, I definitely have that feeling that because I'm a woman entrepreneur, would investors be a little scared to invest in my business? Has that ever happened? Is that a thought that's going around? Is that happening? Do you see this? Is there any kind of bias or anything like that towards women entrepreneurs when they approach investors for funding?
Yeah, I would say there might be a bit of a bias depending on who you're talking to or how you're talking to as well.
Hmm.
Um, but that is much lesser today than it was, say, 5 years ago, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it also depends, like I said, you have to show how serious you are about your business, how invested you are in your business, whether it's through your own funds, whether it's through your time commitment. Because a lot of them will ask you if you're full time working here, or are you working somewhere else, and this is sort of a side hustle kind of a thing,
Mhm.
right? So if it's going to be a side hustle, nobody's going to take you seriously, whether you're a man or a woman, right? So are you 100% invested in this idea? Even before starting a business, if do you have a business plan, do you have these ideas, is there proof of concept, have you been able to sell it to one customer at least? How many people have you spoken to, what kind of conversations you've had? A
Right.
lot of these, even if these are rejections, there's so many things that you can learn and apply it the next time you try and talk to somebody, right? So
Right.
it doesn't mean that your pitch is changing, that your idea is changing, but the way you approach it, the perspectives, you get a perspective of the investor, right? So they
Right.
will be interested in making money out of your idea. So if you don't know how to make money, how are you going to convince them?
Right. So a lot of homework is necessary, I think, especially for women entrepreneurs. There are so many blogs and articles and helpful guides, like you mentioned, that talk about government schemes and even the non-government schemes, that is the VC options, etc. And
Yeah,
then there are books like the one like your book, for example, that will help women who want to set up a business and who might just be having a lot of nervous moments, right? I wouldn't either say take an immediate plunge. Like you said, I think a lot of research is necessary, right? And but do you think a side hustle wouldn't be a very bad idea? I'm saying before you start in going approaching investors. I think a lot of women. Would you recommend them having a side hustle along with a 9 to 5 job? On the side.
definitely start off with that. But that's not where you'll get the funding. But if you start off with
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
and you can show that over years, this is how I've been doing, and now I'm ready to take the plunge, that'll help as well.
Yeah.
But make sure that then when you're going for funding, then you're completely invested in this, right? That you're
Right.
now it's your full time thing, or you cannot say that, once you fund it, I will start working on it full time. It won't work like that.
Makes
But
sense.
yes, definitely, if you've built a brand for yourself, even with a side hustle for a few years, that definitely helps. You can even read a couple of these books. There's a nice book called The Golden Tap by Kashyap Deora.
Okay.
That's something that entrepreneurs can read. The Tip of the Iceberg by Suveen Sinha. These are books that talk about entrepreneurs, talk to entrepreneurs. There's of course Simon Sinek, who talks to leaders. Leaders Eat Last, I think that's called. It's a great book. uh, Entrepreneurs can start reading definitely of success stories,
Yeah.
um, which will inspire them, because a lot of times this is a very lonely journey, if I could call it. So there are nights that you won't be able to sleep, but at the end of the day, you have to sort of have a great
Right.
start again for the next morning, so that you're motivated enough to start talking to people again, start doing what you do even after that failure. So some of these books talk to you as an entrepreneur, and you will make sure that you're kicked about it the next day as
Absolutely.
well. But there will be bad days. I think that all of us have to accept, whether it's a job or an entrepreneurial journey, there will
Mhm.
be certain bad days. Those are good days to introspect, to just step back and maybe even relax, calm down, meditate. Think about your mental wellness as well, because being an entrepreneur can be very, very stressful, and especially when you have costs and you have to take care of employees, it could be
Right.
very stressful. And that next month we're good, but the month after that, if the payments don't come in, I don't know how I'm going to pay salaries. There have been times when I've been thinking about it like that, saying, okay, I don't know, after 2 months, how am I going to pay salaries if these things don't materialize, or the payments don't come on time, because those are things not in our control, right?
Right.
um,
Yes.
so, what do I do today to make sure that I don't have to worry about it 2 months later, and I never have to worry about it? So,
Mhm.
start with things like that. So, cash flow management becomes really important. I can't today wake up and say, "Oh, there's no money in the bank. How am I going to pay salaries today?" Right? I had 2 months time to think about it. Then I can plan activities that make sure that there is money in the bank, there is good cash flow that is coming in. When you're talking about funding, there's one thing that I'd also like to add here is when entrepreneurs approach investors, even if it's with complete documents, one is definitely know your numbers like the back of your hand. But second is make sure that your financial statements are so strong that you don't
Yeah.
have to explain them. It doesn't depend on you being around, that these are self-explanatory. Everybody can understand these if they go through them. That
Yes.
makes a huge difference and huge impact with investors. And for a deal to go through, it could take anywhere between like a couple of months to
Wow.
maybe 3 years, 4 years. I've seen deals that have taken 4 years, and heard from people about, even extended because they had to. I think TCS was one story that we were listening to yesterday, that before they had to go public, it took them almost 8 to 10 years from the time they decided to take it public to the time they actually could, because of a lot of these complicated structures that they had in the beginning. So even a company like TCS has to go through that. We have an advantage of being smaller here and starting. If you're just a few years in the business, make sure that you're structured in the right way to what your vision of the business is. Make sure that your documents are right there. To whatever kind of funding that you want to raise, right?
Right.
Your documents will have to be right.
Of course. Really valid points, and I hope it will really help our women entrepreneurs who are still stopping themselves from setting up a business. I do have one last question before we take the audience questions. We have a few audience questions coming in, so and that is, I mean, today's topic is talking about how women entrepreneurs can earn money sitting at home, right? So one of that is of course setting up their business, and we know one option is to set it up online, right? But do you think, personally, do you think it is a safer option right now, given that the pandemic happened, given that times are uncertain? Let's say any woman wants to start a business. Of course, it starts at a micro level, even if it's growing. Do you think setting it up from home is a safe option right now, or a safer option for women?
I think it is, and as like I said, as many negative things that the pandemic has brought, I think one of the positive things is that we can set up things online now, and it's much more acceptable today. Being working from home
Yeah.
and making sure that things are happening.
Hmm. Correct.
So yeah, I think women should take that plunge. I don't think they should hesitate
Right.
and say, you know what, let this COVID time pass away, because I don't think that's happening anytime soon. All
Yeah.
of us getting our vaccinations. There's so many challenges you're seeing. You see like a second wave coming in.
Yes.
I don't think waiting is necessarily the best option. I think go for it. If you're looking for a time to grow, no better time to grow than today. So go for it.
Absolutely. So I think these are great pointers, and our audience also has a few questions for you. So I think we can start taking them. Our first question is, how do I know which investment plan is best suited for my business? For someone who's just setting up business, or someone who's, let's talk to people who are just setting it up, right? What is the best in business investment that they can take?
Okay, so from a investment side, if you're looking at it, I think do two things. One is definitely plan out your cash flow and invest in sort of laddered maturities, right? So there are investments that will mature, say, first month, second month, third month, so that your cash flows are sorted out. So that is a great way to manage cash flow for the business. There could be anywhere from a liquid mutual fund to an overnight fund that could cater to things like this. You shouldn't shy away from mutual funds, for example, and not just FDs. I'm not sure that FDs are the best places for businesses to earn money, or let it lie idle in the bank account. Invest in mutual funds. There are enough safe mutual funds out there. Make sure you're choosing the right one, and ladder it in a way that it's giving you that money when you need it, right? So keep money liquid. And there is a second part where even as a business you could grow your money, right? So other than your business, definitely your returns are going to be really good, hopefully, and that's why you're running that business.
Yeah.
But there are long term options available for businesses as well, where you can invest. for the long term, so maybe even 3 years and 5 years plus. You don't have to take on more risks. So I'm not saying just invest in equity mutual funds, but there are hybrid mutual funds that you can consider even from your business point of view. But make sure
Right.
that your time horizon is slightly longer, and not just 3 to 5 months. Having
Right.
said that, of course, invest in your brand, invest in your people, your team. Definitely, that's something that's, without saying, one of the best returns on your investment is going to be from there.
Absolutely, yes. I think for a lot of women-led businesses also, they have to start focusing. Actually, this I'll make it into a question around when into the business, how long into the business should an entrepreneur start thinking of, expanding? Like even when it comes to investments, right? And you're talking about you have to collect your documents in one place. Do you know at what stage of the business do you think entrepreneurs should even think that? It's definitely not the beginning stage, when they are just getting things going, but at what stage do you think? I mean, is it when they break even? Is it when they start generating revenue, or is it even in the beginning stage? At what stage do you think they should start like thinking of investments?
So I think, as soon as you break even, definitely start looking at investing more in your business. So it's like a vicious circle, right? It's tricky to that extent that, when do I invest,
Mhm.
and when do I withdraw money from my business?
Yeah.
One of the things that, when people are looking at funding, for example, one of the things that they will see is the entrepreneur drawing salary for herself. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we don't do that. And I would encourage women to do that, and do that at market level, because that will become a good, a discussion or a negotiation point when you are looking for investors, when you're looking to negotiate your own salaries. Because
Mhm.
if you're not paying yourself from your business, it can undermine or show lower costs,
Mhm.
and that could also impact the valuation. It could impact your future salaries as well that you will draw once there is investment in the business. So that is something that you should be doing, even at the beginning, or maybe a year into the business, or whenever you decide, after you're breaking even, or when you start revenue. Make sure you're paying yourself a salary too. Like I said, some of these things need to be in order, so that later when you're raising funding, things are easier. So I think these are things that I have learned also along the way, right?
Yeah.
So some of these things I didn't know maybe a year ago. When
Mhm.
I talk to more and more entrepreneurs, more and more investors, I get a aha moment also, saying, "Oh wow, okay, was that important? I thought me not drawing salary was going to be a great thing for an investor, saying, you know what, she's not drawing salary, she's that invested in this business."
Yeah.
But no, that's a sort of negative point.
Mhm.
Because it's not showing the real cost, and that's what I've learned along the way. So a lot of that, I think, sort of challenges.
Mhm.
So start investments once maybe you break even. Definitely, if you've got your revenue model figured out, if you've got your profitability sort of model figured out, you should know, you should start investing. One of the things that I also learned from a fellow entrepreneur, for example, was that she was mentioning that, as she's growing, her profitability is actually coming down, her costs are increasing,
Of
not
course.
in line with the expansion. So
Yeah. Mhm.
there was a point to which, she said, beyond this, if I grow, it's actually not beneficial for my business. So
Mhm.
should I really grow, or what is then that is stopping me from making that into a more profitable business? Because the kind of the mediators that she was talking about, right, the channels of sales were
Mhm.
getting more and more expensive. If she wanted to go retail, for example, it's
Yeah.
getting more and more expensive. So should I go, right? So that's again an answer that you have to answer that yourself, that, do you want scale, do you want profitability, or if you want both, then how do you scale? So for example, she
Mhm.
then determined that she will only do online, right?
Right.
It could
Right.
mean slower growth, it could mean lesser aggression on sales, but she's not going to go retail.
Of course. Makes
so
sense.
so you have to sort of determine what kind of business you're in and what rate of growth you'd want.
All right. Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. And so the next question that we have, right? It's something that I think you can take from your personal experience as an entrepreneur, because we she wants to know how to get started with a business plan. Like a lot of women entrepreneurs would want to know, should I use a template? Should I chart it out, make a vision board? How can somebody start with a business plan? How did you do it?
Okay, so since I'm in finance, numbers came sort of easy to me. But I think don't just have like a dream, put down in numbers. I know it could sound very difficult to put it down. Start off with one version, and trust me, you will build on it from there. I had three sort of a realistic scenario, best case scenario, and a worst case scenario, and I had like drawdowns from each of them saying, okay, if this happens, this is going to happen, or if we're going to invest this much, or this is how cash flows are going to look for the next 3 years. You don't have to go 3 years, you could go 12 months,
Yeah,
but you need to know where money is coming from and where it's going to.
yeah,
Otherwise, even small amounts, right? So whether it's 10,000 rupees a month, or 10 lakh rupees a month, whatever it is, you need to be in control. You need to know and have intentional costs, right? You cannot have costs which say, you know what, I don't know what I spent this on for, or what's the deliverable for this cost, whether it's your marketing cost, right? A lot of us have costs which are, say, marketing and sales linked. Have those costs and have accountability for those costs. Sometimes we just keep investing in the hope that it will turn out positive later. When you're planning your business, have maybe a best case scenario, worst case scenario, and a realistic scenario. But if you can't, put down your, say, costing, put
yeah.
down your sales price, put down your marketing costs, your employee costs, uh, uh, put down sort of multiples of each one, saying, when I add, say, a new product line, what is
Mhm.
my cost going to be? When I add a new salesperson, what is my cost going to be? Not just for the salesperson, but say for their reimbursements, for their travel, for their advertising costs that you need to do for that particular team. A lot of these are then linked. So have those and build Excels. Don't just write down on a piece of paper. Build Excel sheets so that everything is linked. And
Mhm.
when you change one number, say when you change the sales price of your product, right? So
Right.
everything else will change. Or when you change the number of the number of items that you have, or the number of product lines you have, or the number of or the number of sales you're going to make. When
Mhm.
one thing changes, everything else should sort of fall in line.
Yeah.
Build a business plan which is then linked, and not just which is on the back of your hand, say, you know what, this is my cost price, this is my sales price, your profit
Yeah.
है, and we're good.
Right. Absolutely. I think that having numbers written like that would also make a huge difference. I think it'll seem, of course, it will look more practical and realistic also to the entrepreneur creating the business plan. That makes perfect sense. So we have, in fact, speaking of numbers and speaking of money, our next question is, where can I borrow small loans without collateral? Do you have any that you could personally recommend?
So I haven't borrowed money for my business, but there are options available, even from the government. Like I mentioned, some of these don't require collateral, especially with the smaller amounts. But you do need detailed business plans. You do need your numbers in place, and a lot of times you do need to show that you have a revenue model.
Hmm.
Even to avail the government schemes, you need to show that there's something that is coming in,
Hmm.
rather than just say, like we say in Hindi, hawa mein hai,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
if you have a proof of concept, you have that, businesses are willing to the banks are willing to give you even without collateral.
Okay, all right. Interesting. And so, since we're on the topic of women entrepreneurs, right, we even had a question. I know we already discussed, investment plans that entrepreneurs can look into, but is there anything specific as such for women entrepreneurs? Now, there are government schemes that will help fund them, but anything with regard to investment plans or investment schemes that is specific to women that they should probably read more about, or there isn't yet any in that department?
Not for women entrepreneurs that they have investment options really that are specifically designed for women, but I think it's a great place for products to be in, because there is a gap there. I think there are products for sort of girl children, there are products for retirement, there are products for
Yeah.
education. but there isn't investment products designed for, say, women entrepreneurs. That this is, hey, what, you can sort of park your funds here, and
Mhm.
you can access these at so and so intervals, but not specifically for women. No, in general, of course, there are options available to even women entrepreneurs,
Right.
where they could invest and withdraw, say, regularly. For example, we could design something for women, right? So
Yeah.
we, as financial planners, I design cash flows for
Mhm.
families and individuals and businesses. So we manage then treasuries of businesses in a way that whatever is needed at what time, it's available.
Okay.
Because having money but not being available is not a great place to be in either, right?
Yeah.
So we can design sort of solutions to make sure that women led businesses are benefited, and at the same time money is available to them as well. So yes, we can design something for you.
All right. Okay. Perfect. There's a very technical question that I can't really understand, but I hope you can. It's a question we've got from our audience, which is what should be the percentage of investment from the total amount? I'm assuming the total amount that they have in the business.
Okay. What should be the percentage of investment from the total amount available? Okay. If I understand the question correctly, it means that, how much of this money that's available in the business can I set aside as an investment? I hope that's the question. I don't know if Vivek can sort of uh, ratify that question, but um, you could start off with as little as 5%, for example, that you have, and you start setting aside 5% of your total capital. What percentage of investment should be from your total capital? So see, ideally the capital for your business is to use in your business, to build in your business, right? Okay, did I lose you guys?
Hi. Can you see me now? I think my internet got cut off. You can see
Okay,
me,
okay,
right?
I can see you, but your screen is kind of frozen. Now it's better. Yeah, now it's better.
Better? Okay. Yeah, the power cut. It's
Yeah.
India, so sorry about that. Yes, please
No
continue.
problem. Yeah, so as a when you're looking at capital for your business, it is intended to for you to use it for your business, right? And not necessarily as an investment uh, separately, right? This is your business money that you're using for your business. But if you're looking at sort of creating a reserve for yourself from your regular revenues, then I would say start off with like a 5%. If you have excess, start off with 5%, because you're then going to grow your business as well. Start off with 5%. I think that's a good number to start off with. Depending on how profitable the business is, I don't think otherwise you're going to sort of look at investing that seriously. Start off with 5% and then grow from there. And then you could start looking at long term sort of investment options as well. But start off with shorter duration and start off with smaller percentages.
Okay. All right. I hope that answers your question, Vivek. I think we can take one more question, right? We
Yeah,
were
one last question.
discussing,
Yeah.
yeah, we were discussing about resources. You were mentioning, of course, there is your book, and then there is another book that you had recommended, two other books that you have recommended, right? Any other kind of resources that you personally believe will help women entrepreneurs, to have that confidence to set up a business or reassurance to set up a business that you would recommend personally?
I would say read Built to Last. That's a great book as well. That is one book that I didn't recommend earlier. What else you can do is there are a lot of podcasts available today
Mhm.
as resources. Listen to successful entrepreneurs. I think there are a lot of podcasts that are available. I, of course, listen into a lot of finance related stuff and investment related stuff. But there are a lot of them doing in various sort of areas of business. So choose an area that you're not strong at, that's not your strong point, that's not your strength, and start listening to podcasts even while driving around, or while doing other chores at home. So you could do that. So for example, say finance isn't your strongest aspect, start
Mhm.
listening to more podcasts of finance. If nothing, you'll start learning jargons. If nothing, you'll start knowing of more people who are experts. So start doing that, start listening in, and you'll, but for that, of course, you'll have to identify your not so strong points. So you'll have to do that.
Right. Absolutely. I completely agree. And I think so that answers, I think, all the questions that we had about how women entrepreneurs can set up a business and find their, find the right funds. And definitely, I've learned a lot, especially when it comes to finding the right footing. I think when it comes to setting up your own business. Definitely, there's one last question I have for you before we sign off, and that is, you have set up Investography and you're growing it with your co-founder also. And during the pandemic, how did you overcome any of the challenges that the pandemic brought? I would like to personally know how you met those head on. I think it'll be a little bit of an inspirational dose for all the women and men who have tuned in today.
So I think with the pandemic, we had two big sort of challenges. One was definitely not being able to meet the team as such, and sort of work like individual silos. So
Mhm.
that's one thing. And the
Mhm.
second thing is definitely costs, because the payments were not coming on time. So we did cut some of the costs. We did let go of people. That is something that we did.
Mhm.
But what we did on the other side was maybe get consultants, so that our costs are not fixed, but we do have the same amount of manpower. So that is something that we did. And of being as individual silos, I think in the beginning it was sort of a little difficult. So we had Zoom meetings as well, and more communication on WhatsApp, depending on how frequent you wanted it to be. But
Yeah.
that is now, I think people have sort of fallen in this space as a very comfortable space where you're working from your house. And what I've learned also in this pandemic is that people have been more gracious with their time. I
Yes.
know we've had meetings till 10 o'clock at night, and sessions from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And the team has been very, very happy to do these and say, not crib about it, saying we're just grateful to get that business. And it's so nice to see that your team is sort of behaving that way, because
Yeah.
otherwise you feel that all the stress is on you. And when your team members say, you know what, no, it's great, don't say no to business. If you can't do it, that's fine, I'm going to do it, even though it's late at night, or even if it's Sunday. I've had teammates do meetings on Sundays because the clients are happy only to meet on Sundays at that time. I said, you know what, forget Sundays. We are going to do Sundays. We're going to do whatever it takes to sail us through this time. So that has been really encouraging and gratifying.
That's really interesting. And that's so good to know, I think, to hear personally from a successful female entrepreneur how to take on a crisis head on and not be disheartened, right? So thank you so much, Shweta. I think we all learned so much today. And we hope to see you again for another round of webinars. For those of you who may have more questions for Shweta, please do visit her website, investography.com, and you can we leave the link in our comment section, so you can just go visit the page. You can even ask her questions over there. Shweta, how if they can approach you anyway for any further communication, you can let them know now. But thank you so much for joining us in the webinar today. We've learned a lot.
Thank you. Thanks, Chetna. And yes, you can definitely get in touch with us on our website. You can follow us on our social media, and we're happy to sort of interact and help you out in any way we can. Thank you for having me again. And I
Thank
look
you
forward
so
to
much. Yes, same here. All right, bye.
it. Bye bye.